Recorded.
Ooh, it's recording. Got it.
Boom. All right. So I am here with my good friend. It may say Reggie right there, but his name is Mark, the Soul Mova Sanchez. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things today. I would say a great way to loop it all together is self-expression, movement, connection, community, and we're gonna riff here on a few topics, and I guess this is like my first YouTube podcast right here, but whatever. So Mark, thank you so much for the time today. I'd like to start with a little story about how I met Mark, and I think this will really set us up for a nice conversation here. But this was, I believe, back in 2018, maybe 19, but 2018, 19, something like that. And I was at, what's that park called?
Fort Mason.
Fort Mason
Yep.
In San Francisco. And I was just chilling there with my girlfriend at the time and her dog. And there was this guy, and he was across the park, and I saw some of the stuff he was doing, and then I was immediately intrigued. And then the dog runs over, picking up on someone's energy over there. And so sure enough, go over there because we couldn't get the dog back to us, and Mark's there, and he's doing some qigong, tai chi stuff, and we just started chatting for a bit, and connected with him immediately. We didn't exchange any info, but I knew that I would be seeing this guy again, and it was just one of those things where I acknowledged that this dude was my soul brother at that time, seeing the way he was moving, seeing his intention, his calmness, and his presence. And I found him on Instagram maybe 3-4 weeks later, connected with him, and we've been chatting, hanging out, doing our own things, but obviously on some similar paths here. And I hope that sets things up for Mark right here, and how we met, and where we're going to take this. But Mark, thanks for hopping in here, man. How you doing?
Yeah, you're welcome, brother. I remember that story that day well too. The dog comes over, you come over, I'm like probably eyes half closed, like so yeah, that was a cool moment, brother. Yeah, thanks for having me on in your time to chat about, like you said, like what we're doing in our own lives, our paths, and a little bit of how we met, and the stories, and kind of what we're working with in this world right now with our energies and our coaching as we're coaches together. So yeah, thank you, brother.
Yeah, man. So with that, you got your awesome new do right here, your hairdo, and I'd love to hear what self-expression means to you, and
nice.
and how you like to express yourself. I would say more the modalities or the activities that you partake in.
Cool. Self-expression. Yeah, I think at this point, as I think about it, self-expression is letting who you are without any blockages out and expressing, whether it be singing, a movement, presence, that your wholeness and your authentic deepest self is being expressed, not a partial part of you because of fear of judgment or ridicule or something like this, right? Where you're not quite out there because you're in fear mode about expressing maybe what you think. So self-expression is just that, yeah, very authentic as possible, expression. I think what we're going to talk about too is kind of just prefacing a little bit, is self-expression is this journey that it's a well of, things to uncover. So yeah, self-expression. And in that way, I've grown to do so many things of movement, and starting from BMX and dirt bike, go-kart, motorsports, to wakeboarding and hiking or basketball. So it's been a lot of different things. I think anything that involves just play, experimentation, skill, challenging my skills of balance, or can I hit this target with a rock? The old school throwing a rock at like a little tree or something. How fun is that? Foot bag, kicking a little bag or something. So anything inspires me. I think this whole world at this point for movement inspires me, because it's movement everywhere. Everything is moving. Even if I'm sitting still, there's energy moving, and there's things moving. There's blood moving. So there's movement happening. So enjoying, there's the macro to the micro. It's like you can play. So that's where I'm at these days with that. Yeah. But as of late, playing music has been a self-expression. Singing and hiking, being in the woods, climbing trees, granite, big canyons. Side note, I don't know if you can hear this. Can you hear the drum circle popping off?
Yeah, a little bit.
What's happening here?
Yeah, buddy.
So yeah, brother, that's where I'm at in terms of those. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, something that really stands out that you said, everything is in motion, everything is moving, right? And there's depending on what thing or what book you read, or what thing you find, what meme you find, right? There's these 12 universal laws of, well, the universe, right? And one that really stands out to me is the law of rhythm. And that comes down to, what it is everything is in motion. And another way to phrase it is that everything in the universe is in a dance with each other. So even on the atomic level of, let's say, something like a rock, there is some vibration aspect happening there.
Right.
So nothing stays the same. Everything is moving. Everything has some level of vibration, which is another one of those universal laws, right? But yeah, man, I'd love, you mentioned a few things that you probably did more as a kid. But when did you really start to feel that universal presence of rhythm in your life?
Really, only the last few years, I would say. The deepest is most recent. But I felt it when I was younger, and then I lived in the city, and I did this whole like city recreational drug usage, party central. I didn't feel it then. I didn't feel this rhythm to the universe, but I did before, which in my story is kind of long, but it's roundabout where I'm refining that and remembering it on a deeper level as an older person and getting older, right? Like not super early, but then losing it. So more recently, yeah, feeling that rhythm. There's seasons to creativity, seasons to emotion, seasons to growth, and definitely feeling the rhythm a lot lately, the last few years. Getting closer to nature, being in nature more, and doing more movement in nature is, for that.
Yeah, you bring up something really interesting, and I feel the same way in a few different aspects in my life. So there's three. I imagine we agree on this, right? But the biggest, the lowest hanging fruit I see for anybody in terms of health, and this is more around habit formation or pattern, right? And you hear a lot of this like, oh, stepping into your new pattern, or, like finding your universal pattern, or whatnot, your unique pattern. And what makes up that pattern? Well, if we were to take some words from one of our biggest mentors, and somebody that we really connected over,
Uh-huh.
Paul Chek,
Uh-huh.
right? The highest repetition thing that we do is our thoughts.
Oh, right.
So we have our thoughts there, right?
Right.
That's a pattern,
Rhythm.
both conscious and subconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got our breath, which is our naturally built-in rhythm there, and that's going on consciously or subconsciously as well, mostly subconscious, right? So with that, a lot of opportunity, if we start to mesh our breath up with our rhythm of the thoughts we want to be having, then that starts to get some good momentum into that new pattern. And then the last one, which I know we're going to agree upon as well, is, I would say, steps or locomotion.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeds into walking, that feeds into movement, that really feeds into any sort of locomotion. And then where I've been seeing some major growth is the steps that I take, albeit maybe I'm still working on these different steps and these different patterns with dance, but like how many reps I can log
Mm-hmm.
stepping into that new pattern, or stepping on the path that
Mm-hmm.
I'm on, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I view those three things right there as how we can really establish, or rediscover, reclaim that rhythm that I imagine all of
Yeah.
us at some point felt as a kid. So, few things with thoughts. I never remembered like wanting to impress anybody until I didn't get invited to my best friend at the time's birthday in 6th grade. And
Mm-hmm.
then I cared so much about what other people thought of me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember any issues with my breathing when I was younger, yet some things happen in some different ways, whether it be injuries or posture, or, um, stress, anxiety, and that changes our breathing pattern. And I got locked up there. And then the same thing with the steps, like the same thing with movement in general. Um, I lost touch with how I moved more naturally, and I think with that, without getting into the weeds of how to move properly, it's what you said earlier, man. It's just playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's when we're playing, our brain is stimulated in so many ways, and that really allows us to just remember and restore those patterns of movement that support us rather than break us down. So
Yep.
there's no real question in that. I just wanted to ramble for a bit, but I'm curious how that lands with you.
Yeah, ramble away, bro. You're a rambling man at this point.
That I am.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like you said, with all those and those three, and the breath and the mind and the rhythm of your steps. I was thinking of that Paul Chek. You brought up Paul Chek, and I was already thinking Paul Chek like 5 minutes ago before you even talked about this. What's that song? Your pressure creates your rhythm, and your rhythm creates your flow. What's that whole song that he sings? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh man, I
And
do know, but I don't know what the lyrics are.
rhythm, and how like the pressure keeps your rhythm, and the rhythm keeps your flow, and your flow keeps your grow. And like there's this whole cycle of like,
Mm,
yeah, like each one of those things, your breath, your thoughts, and how you use your brain and your mind with your movement, and the pumping of all three of those things uh, create a rhythm and create a harmony and create a resonance that is comes into itself. It closes. It becomes more solid. I think for me in that. So when I hear that, it's like super. It's a simple thing that you're talking about: breathing, a little bit of mind work, and some movement. But it's radical in the health, as you're saying, and it's very potent medicine for our creativity, expressions as people. You said you had all these things happen to you where you closed down, you got fearful of not expressing yourself or not being included. And oftentimes what I'm hearing you say is like our movements in our world today are dictated by those things, those little slight like I don't feel wanted or desired, or I was picked last on the team for the basketball court game. It's like all those things add up to then a calcified expression, whether it be physical, breath, mind, whatever. And that unblocking those things in a playful way that supports us is kind of like what we're doing in our own lives and what we've been doing since we met in the park. That one day I was exploring these aspects of myself. We met, you were coming out of a job in the city, sitting in a desk,
Yeah.
trying to get out, right? And went from trying to go to the gym to then being not in the gym all the time and being outside and being, from what I see, more vital, fit, lubricated, mobile, expressive than you were ever in the gym. Uh, so moving out of those things. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting just to see the progression, right? And I'm curious about your progression out of that, you know, um, phase in your life where you were city living. Because when I met you, you were city living, yet, well, I guess you're in Berkeley and living up on a hill, and so you're double dipping, right? You came into the city for work and all that, and
Well, I did live in the city. I lived in the marina,
yeah,
remember?
that's right, that's right.
And then
So,
all over. Yeah.
but yeah, so it's like you were living in the city, and I'd love to hear about, okay, what what were those experiences that allowed you to develop some awareness, or expand that awareness, or remember
Mm-hmm.
what you valued, or that, let's say, started to move you from the story of the typical, let's say, San Francisco or big city, um, let's say somebody in their 20s or 30s, which is like, let's go out every weekend, let's do some recreational drug use, let's stay at the clubs until 3 4 in the morning, things like that, where that story right there, people are giving their power away to that particular story
Yep.
of what it means to be a young person in the city, rather
Yep.
than looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, hey, what do I want? What
Yeah.
do I want to
Yeah.
create? So how
Yeah.
did you start to look in your mirror and be like, shit,
Uh-huh.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. That's a combination. That was a Paul Check course. I think we've talked about this as well in the
Mm-hmm.
past, but that was a Paul Check course. Hearing somebody talk about bigger things other than what I was doing. What's your legacy? What are you contributing? Um, and in this class, I learned all the stuff I teach now, which is the breath, the mind, the food, the sleep, the water, the pumping of the body, basic digestion, basic lymphatic movement, all these simple things that really make the difference in our health these days, in a real way. I learned a lot of that, and I said, man, didn't know this much simple stuff that's amazing. So I went deep, and I was reading a lot of Tai Chi books at the time and doing a lot of meditation. So I just started merging all these things together. At the time, I was doing all these in my soul. I was like, dude, this is not what you want to be doing. I want to be a musician. I want to be a dope dancer, because I wasn't dancing really much at the time because I was banged up. My shoulder, it was hurt for 10 years. This whole injury story that I play, but it was all that being like, man, I don't feel good. So that was a little bit of this call to adventure in terms of like the hero's journey for me. Hearing this call of like, something doesn't feel right. My soul's not happy. The situation is not supporting me. I'm doing self harm. All the pieces of dysfunction and disharmony myself was apparent in the city. Yeah. So there's no way I can deny that. I can deny it and still be in pain and still do what I was doing. But it was too great for me. I'd rather not have money and live without this kind of stuff than have the luxury that I was living in. So it was all that. It was all that of like a realization moment.
And
to then.
I would love to just point out a couple things here that you said that are just so pivotal. And it's simple, but it doesn't necessarily make it easy.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, right?
True.
But the the story, right? Or the belief, right? I've got a bum shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't want to be living this lifestyle. And you shifting that to putting your energy towards things that you actually wanted. I want to be a dope ass dancer. I want to be able to sing. I want to be able to play music and put that
Mm-hmm.
focus onto the dream, right?
Yeah.
And this is, we're giving you a lot of PC Paul check, that is, right? Uh
A
not
lot of
politically correct. um but yeah, a lot of Paul check gems here, and a lot of times it starts with the awareness of that nightmare. And if you're
yeah.
living the fucking nightmare, it can be really hard to see any other possibility in that.
Yeah.
And you know I just I love it. Everything you're doing now, Mark, is putting your energy towards the things that you want to have blossom in your life, in your
Mm.
community, and on a grander scale, like you said, on the macro level in the world. And I mean, that's where I would say you have been the biggest inspiration for me.
Mm.
um is just a living embodiment of these principles, these concepts, and then also just like how to be a badass person, and then as a man as well, talking about this stuff where it's like, I encourage any man out there watching this, if you aren't exploring the the depths of your awareness and your consciousness in this sort of way, in terms of like being honest with yourself and getting uh past that hard surface, and really, hey, yeah, I was hurt in 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Boo-hoo. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's stuff that we would probably be taught not to talk about as men, right? So that's been, you shared unconditionally with me, with your experience of going through. I would say we have had different lives and different paths, yet how they've intersected has been incredibly valuable for me. And I
Mm.
know I met you once I was already working at a gym,
Mm-hmm.
but it was that same thing where it's like, man, I want to um prioritize health, and I want to prioritize health in my life, and
Mm-hmm.
support other people in prioritizing health in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And sitting at a desk all day, staring at a screen, and trying to do like maintenance work at lunchtime with my body, um, it it was the existence, right, of living that, right,
Mm-hmm.
and having some safety and security with a good job, and and doing all that was solid. And yet I was willing to take, all my savings and see that run down to basically zero, because I wanted to do something that was more dream affirmative and in line with the things that I really, really valued as a kid. And like another key point in my journey, like when I look back on it, was like early college, and in college as a whole. I look back at that, and there were so many like little remnants of like what I was interested in as a kid, and then like what I'm interested in now and how I like to spend my time.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I wasn't disciplined back then, or maybe I just didn't trust myself back then. And to
Mm-hmm.
see that circle back where it's like, oh, yeah, um, my body was broken by the time, that was my mentality, by the time I was a sophomore in college.
Mm-hmm.
And I weighed 198 pounds of like a completely dysfunctional muscle, and I was in chronic pain at age 19. And I was just like, this is not the existence I want. I want to prioritize health in other ways. And that led me to, I would say, very surface level exploration of meditation, breath
Mm-hmm.
work, functional movement, yoga, more of a call to spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And the weirdest thing is, like, just some of my hippie friends at the University of Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
we play hacky sack every day.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And once I left college, I just didn't play.
Uh-huh.
Didn't play. And so, like, if you follow me at all and you see the stuff I post and whatnot, like, Mark knows this, like, everything I just mentioned is stuff that I value and that I prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy eating was another one, but at the same time, I was going super surface level where it's like, I'm going to spend all this money on organic groceries and still go out and drink copious
Uh,
amounts like 3-4 nights a week. And so that, there's this, it's the spiral, right? That awareness, you have this remembering or this true essence of yourself and your soul, and it continues to reveal itself as you spiral up, or as you live your life, and more awareness around that, you start to go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. And yeah, so it's it's really like, what it comes down to, I would say, is like, um trusting. Like, one thing we talked about before we press record here was self-exploration, and we went into self-expression, which is largely, well, there's a lot of similarities there, but with the self-exploration, like, I found that until I was willing to trust myself over, let's say, um, other people, experts, friends, a way of life, I got nowhere with the self exploration. And let me rephrase that. The stuff that I did explore has circled back and served me now, right? So
mm-hmm.
that spiral, that journey, that path, the things that we gather on that path provide great perspective. But yeah, I mean, like, to truly explore oneself, one has to trust themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, dude, like, thank you for, like, supporting me simply by being a great example to trust myself.
You're welcome, brother. Yeah. It's cool to see you do all the footbag stuff, and like, you talk about your story a little bit and your journey. It's like, yeah, it's funny how we did stuff when we were younger and it brought us joy. We stopped doing it and then we find it again at some point. It's a common theme. It's a common theme. Oh, I did this in college and I loved it. And then I stopped doing it for money. And then I found it again after I realized the money wasn't buying my happiness. I mean, that story, I can say that story and a lot of people might go, oh, I know what he's talking about. He's talking about me. You know what I'm saying? Like, in a lot of ways, stop doing something you love happens very. So yeah, it's cool to see. Yeah, like you said, when I met you, you were just, yeah, you're doing your training, had left the corporate world, and then it's been, yeah, you've been doing ropes, you've been doing footbag stuff now, but your journey of exploration took off quick. It's like when you
And
fully
it's
committed to change and growth and white belt mentality and play and finding your own true expression, um, which is, I think, one of the most important things in our lifetimes to really focus on is who are we and what is our unique expression slash gift slash medicine for this world. How are we showing up? How are we using our power, and our, not power in a negative way like we think about it now, but our sovereignty and our ability to make change in ourselves and then master that and be like, oh shit, this shit's real. I can manipulate myself to this deep level. What if everybody did that together and inspire those around us? You know, feeling that energy in the park. I'm inspiring you somehow. You're drawn to me. I have the same way to people in the park when I've met people. I'm like, oh shit, they're doing something. What? I've never seen that. And you gravitate towards it. Or just the person sitting there is like, yep, definitely want to sit by them because look at them, they're just glowing or something. So this inspiration, energy, and um, definitely appreciate your friendship, brother, and grateful for you as well. As how we bounce back and forth, you know, of inspiration. And
Yeah.
like you're saying, like, and just people in a community and who we have around us, kind of going back to the question you had before, is like, my friends inspire me, you know, the world inspires me, but seeing other people go through struggle and go through these intense growth periods of their life of complete upheaval, and then continue forward and find even more wholeness and more completeness and groundedness and clarity in their life. Like, whoa, that's tight. They left everything. They completely just walked away from this, turned around. So those stories of growth are inspiring me. When I look at you, other people around me, it's like, yep, cool. I can lean into other people doing this type of bravery and courage through their fears, you know, to then
Yeah.
inspire people, to then lead embodied lives, to then lead the change in the world around around themselves. And then, like I said, we go into the macro and kind of what we're doing with Instagram, you know, making a video like this and sharing where we're at, to then hopefully inspiring more than we can in our small network of people that we have in front of us. That, you know, your foot bag, how that lights you up, how you're getting people to do that, how hosting a retreat and organizing this retreat for holistic living and movement and breath, how that is coming together. So yeah, it's been dope to see this transition, brother.
Well, I want to get into the dance and the retreat stuff as well, and you know, we can spend the rest of our time on that. But before we do that, man, I want to just first off share that it's never too late to start something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, I'm relatively young, I would say, and like I'm running into these kids that are like 21, 22, and their awareness is like, whoa, dude, like you're way ahead of the game right here. And it's cool to see that this work has inspired like even kids, or you know, I'm calling them kids, they're adults, but like really young adults, in getting into this type of work and this awareness and consciousness. But one of the things that I've really like embodied is the white belt mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And and it really shows that like time does not matter. It's like it's a construct, and those experiences, like I said, from college or from as a kid, they provide context for me to pick something up at 29, pick something up at 40, 50, 60, 70, and and really be able to connect with it in my own way, right? Or in one's own way. And so
Mm-hmm.
like I want to get into the dance here, and I'd love for you to share maybe your first like memory of like dance stood out to you. But I remember I guess I don't really remember it in class, but I was like a pretty energetic kid in third grade, and well, you know, probably throughout my entire schooling, right? But I apparently would dance a lot. And my third grade teacher told my mom, she's like, don't have him watch the whole movie because you know it's a fucked up movie, but you gotta show Grant the scenes from Saturday Night Fever. Um, and so like, you know, that was, I got, you know, I saw those scenes, Travolta just strutting around and like just owning the dance floor and just like bringing this crazy energy. And that was really cool. And I look back at that moment right there, and you know, in the grand scheme of things, I think I have some good rhythm. I know I have good rhythm, but to really structure it and freestyle and do something incredible like I see you do, I'm a crazy novice in that sense. But that right there, from a kid, like
Mm-hmm.
from the memory of a kid right there, I know that this is something that I've always been interested in. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm curious, what, and when it comes to dance, because we're about to hop into this stuff, what was your first calling, or when did you know that this was something like that you enjoyed and wanted to maybe not even wanted to expand upon, but just enjoyed?
Yeah, sure. That's cool. I think I actually, now that you speak about it, I had that same experience with Saturday Night Fever. Of seeing those scenes, man, and being like, damn, look at this smooth, like they're dope. So I definitely had that this one with that movie. Yeah, dude, so good. And before talking about my dance, where like I felt inspired and I was like had a clear moment, which I think is a cool story to share. But I think hearing you, I think we're all, before I say this, we're all as humans innately movers and dancers. Like people, oh, I don't have rhythm. Well, sorry, that's false. Well, I don't know. I just have two left feet. I don't have rhythm. Sorry. Again, I just have to no diss, but that's false. Well, what do you mean? Well, your body, your beat, your heartbeat has a rhythm. The way you walk has a rhythm. The way your brain moves and thinks, there's a rhythm, right? We talked about this. So you are a rhythmic person. We are rhythmic people innately. And so when you watch kids, most kids wiggle, right? They wiggle, they wiggle, they wiggle. Put music on, or you sing, or you play a drum, or you beat on something, they're going to move their bodies. We all are, I think, dancers. And it's what we've been talking about, calcification of the being that says, no, you're not a dancer. Stop dancing. That's inappropriate. Don't dance. We don't do that. Stand still, be still, right? All this shit from when we're growing up. So just to give a little bit out there in terms of a ramble, we're all dancers. Don't think you're not. And your expression is being hidden. But for me, dancing, I did some Backstreet boy band stuff in high school. And but again, thinking back, I was like, what, like all these like what 90s groups, Boys to Men, and all these like groups that danced. So like Usher, B2K, all these. That's more 2000s, but seeing all the break dancers and the old school break dancers come out of New York, it was in my consciousness. I was seeing it somehow
Mm-hmm.
through cousins and people that were into it. So I think that had something to do with all the wiring and being like, ooh, that's nice, that's cool. Taking some courses after I got out of high school and junior college, and just was like, my mom's like, oh, you can take a elective course. I said, what's an elective course? She said, well, that's a course that you could just take that's not your major, but for fun to explore. I said, that's cool. You have those kind of classes? So I took a hip hop class and fell in love with the hip hop. And I was like, what? I can dance. I'm good at this, and finding a lot about myself. I was picked on in high school and beat up and these things. So when I found dancing, I was good at it. I actually got attention of girls. I started to feel better about who I was, in my self-worth, and like getting out of like all these shame and like I'm not good enough, or you're scrawny, you're a little weak, little punk. Started to feel empowered, and I was like, wow, I'm pretty good at this. And so started getting into that, started raving, started going club dancing, started studying it as a real dancer, and eventually got my degree there. And then just kept dancing in the community, at the clubs, in my house, in nature. So I pretty much dance anywhere. But I do remember that moment in that class, junior college, just dancing. I'm like, yeah. And I was like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I remember to this day, man, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this is not where I know it. This is, whew, what a relief to find something, that I liked, that a message, now that I think about it, what I refer to as great spirit, or source, or something above me that said, and it was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. And I was like, yeah, it, it, kind of, So it was me saying it, but it wasn't me saying it, but I just knew it. Yeah. So then I followed that path, and dance has been part of my healing, my growth all the way through. Sometimes I didn't dance for 3 years. Sometimes I've been dancing in some way, or studying it, or watching it, or watching others the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. chills hearing that, like just that moment of like knowing, you know,
Yeah.
the like yeah, this is something that you know, I'm going to express myself through for the rest of my life. And you and
Yeah.
I you know, we're on the same wavelength in terms of, yeah, I mean, I view it as like movement, sure, yeah, like dance. If you look at animals, you look at I would say early humans or whatever, like it is the OG form of communication,
Hmm. Definitely.
and it is a language in itself. And so that stuff just it's there for all of us, and
Sure.
anybody can tap into their own unique rhythm. And yeah, so like obviously you've woven this together into something really magical that I'm excited to chat with you about.
Sure.
And I got one more story to share about Mark, and that has to go back to the white belt stuff, the white belt mentality and trying new things and sucking at them and being
Hmm.
okay with it, right? And that is like last year, beginning of 2020, Mark subbed for his friend at Movement Studio in Albany, which is right outside of
Hmm.
Oakland. And he's like, dude, you should come by. And this was like the third or fourth time he had hit me up about it, like where he'd sub in a class. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna be there. And I remember like an hour before, I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not
Yeah.
going. Because like, and really what the fear was like, I'm gonna find out that I'm really not that great of a dancer. Like that was
uh,
my biggest fear.
hmm.
And sure enough, I show up, Mark's just beaming with energy, welcomes me in. And it was a really humbling class. It was a house dance class, and we learned the jack in the box, and we learned the swirl. Those were the two
Nice.
steps we learned that day. And
Nice.
and I and it was really humbling. And like those, you know, those are pretty simple steps, but I was really challenged with it all. And I would say more so just with relaxation and not allowing myself to feel the rhythm. But I knew that this was something that I wanted to explore further from that class. And the way Mark weaved everything in together, there was joint mobility to rhythm in the beginning, and I saw all the prioritization of holistic health in the process.
Mm.
And it was just like, wow, this is really cool. And Mark had shared something with me in the past about really doing something around dance, not that being like the only thing, but really having some sort of program or retreat that encompasses all elements of holistic health, and dance being like a nice focal point of expression. And
Hmm.
this man's been working, and he's been scheming and putting some stuff together. And so, dude,
Yeah.
what is the soul movement retreat? Give me a rundown.
Sure, brother. Thanks for asking that question. And yeah, I remember that class. And uh, yeah, it's seeing people get into dance, just like seeing your process. You know, real quick on Grant, he's helping. What is it called? Dudes for Dance for Dudes,
Dance for dudes, yeah.
right? Helping other
Flirting
dudes.
with yeah, flirting with disco for dudes as well.
This dudes is great
Because
too. Yeah.
yeah, because there's discovery in that, right? So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Boom,
wordplay.
boom, boom. I like it even more now you mentioned that. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So as Grant's teaching, you know, and sharing with his process with other dudes, more men to move their bodies and to get into the flow and the rhythm of music and drumming and singing and shaking and expression, because there's a lot of energy that's getting trapped in our bodies, um, men and women. But dance is such an easy thing. It's always there, always there. It's right there. You can dance in your kitchen. You can dance anywhere. You can dance anytime. I dance in the airports. I go crazy. I go full out. People are just like, damn, this dude is doing backflips and shit in here. What the hell is this guy doing? I'm like, oh. So you can dance anywhere. I just want to say that, you know. So, but yeah, this, I think I've told you this this idea for a retreat many times of bringing dance and holistic health together, and doing a lot of Paul Chek inspired coaching through there, of just weaving organic food, which is very simple: organic food, nature, breath work, meditation, joint mobility, some stretching, some dancing, some strength training, some skill and fun play, community fire. And then you have yourself a freaking alchemy process that's hard to not feel good in.
It's
You
easy
know?
to feel good in.
Or it's easy to feel good. It's hard to feel bad in that, you know. He's like, shit, I'm getting loved up on. People are connecting with me. You can drop in. So bringing all these elements, which are very simple, together in one place is coming to fruition in October. I moved into a beautiful 10-acre retreat space farm here in California, in the Sierra Nevada foothills. So it's just the prime location for play and for healing, and for, it's called Gayatri, is the actual place. Gayatri Center for Remembrance and Connection is the retreat space name. So it fits well with the vision. The brother that curated this and cultivated this land over the last 9 years, his vision is to hold retreats. So when I walked in, I said, cool, I would love to live here. He said, cool, I think you're a great fit. I said, hey, can I have retreats here? He said, of course, that's what I want this place for, to bring people in that are aligned with the vision of these things we're talking about, which is, if we simplify and distill it, it's exploration of self, exploration to others, exploration with the natural world, play, food, breathing, discovery, all these things woven into one, understandable thing of, what are these guys doing? Okay, Mark's been talking and Grant's been talking for the last hour. Okay, what are they talking about? If I distilled it and like sat with it, those simple things, they're coming, like I said, coming together in October for Soul Movement Retreat and all that. So it's also a camping retreat as well. So people get to camp right outside in the fruit trees if you wanted, or underneath this black walnut tree, or tucked away underneath the willow tree. So there's some beautiful places to camp. There's going to be sauna. There's going to be opening, closing ceremonies of intention and connection, so we can drop in, do a few ohms together, sync up, connect, and then within our container here, we're playing and we're enjoying ourselves. So it's a 3-day event, 3-day retreat, and I'm looking forward to it. It's been like in my soul, I'm like, this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So, and the last thing I'll say about Soul Movement Retreat that really juices me up is, if you think about soul movement, the name Soul Mova has been my name for a long time. Soul Mova, movement, feels more encompassing. It's not just me, so I changed it to movement. And then soul has been used a lot of times. Soul cycle, soul this, soul journeys, everything's soul, right? But it's just like love. When we say love, what are we saying? Right? Oh, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm really saying is, I love you, and I'll give you love, and I'll give you affection and my attention if you do this. And if you don't do that, or you do something else that goes against what I want, I'm going to take that love and withhold it and be conditional loving you, which causes a lot of tensions in our relationships. Same thing with soul. We say, oh yeah, this soul really means. How are we using soul? It's just like love. They're very deep words. So recently, the last few months, I read this book called Soulcraft by a wilderness guide, ecotherapist. And what he talks about is soul. He said spiraling up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Within soul, there's a spiraling down. So you have two things going in opposite directions. One is your soul, which you might refer to as the soil, or the inwards rooting part of your being. And you have your spiraling up as your ascension, as your bliss, as your maybe mastery, enlightenment, going that way into the heavens. And soul is down. So soul, getting into the body, getting into the physicality of our tissues and our chemistry, getting into the soil, getting into the soul, the soil of nutrition. Where's our food coming from? Is this the energy? I'm going to take you into kind of some coaching here, is real quick, into the mind and into the spirit, into the heart, because I'm thinking clear. Then I can start thinking and seeing the reality of where I'm at with my healing and my challenges in my mirror and my triggers and what I'm getting fed up with in my life, you start to see those with more true perception, then you can make the moves and change the belief because you have authentic seeing of yourself to then have a more complete understanding of who you are. So then you go out in the world and you actually speak and communicate and express more authentically and whole and have more clarity in your life, all coming from this word soul. So soul movement, we need movement. Movement is always happening and our souls need that movement. So that's the one of the inspirations about the name and how that encompasses food, sleep, water, breath, mindfulness, connection, fire, singing, chanting, all the basics of soul movement, getting things stirred up. So that's it.
I love it, man. You cut out just a little bit when you said the name of the book. What was that?
Oh, Bill Plotkin, Soulcraft.
Soulcraft. Yeah, man. It's we talk a lot about I do, and talking a lot about the spiral, and I love the distinction of the spiral up and the spiral down. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of let's say weight that people would put on like spiraling down. Yet if we look at it from that perspective, it's really like, okay, from source, we are spiraling down and becoming more rooted in what's coming from source, and rooted in the soil. So, I mean, I don't know if that articulates it very well, but Soulcraft is the name of the book. I love it, man. I'm gonna check that out. Yeah, and I just want to say, like, if you want any proof of the work, just go check out Mark's page. Go check out how this guy moves, his expression, his I would say simply just the smiles and looking at a true embodiment of this. But like, I mean, just an incredible example here. And I encourage anybody that has the accessibility to go to this event does.
Yeah,
I know Mark's put a lot of energy into this, and he's making it happen. And that's one thing I'd love to say about what you're doing here, Mark, is there's a lot of intellectualization of this stuff.
Sure.
Including me. Sure. Right? Like we're doing it right now, I guess, right? But
right.
One thing that's been really interesting for me is to recognize that some of the shadow elements of myself of like, am I doing this right? Or I need to be doing this right? Or like, how do I make sure that I am in the best position to do this? And that we're over intellectualizing the process to get to the action. And really the action must happen in order for us to get in this cycle of awareness and attention and intention to actually learn. And and so we could spend all day talking about, hey, Soulcraft, the book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, Paul Chek's book. We could talk about the one thing that I nerded out on and still do, but it's I have way less attachment to it because I have way more attachment to the actual actions, is like the neurology of like, oh my God, the power of dance and the power of rhythm and patterning and what that does with the brain. And it's like, we can focus on all this factual shit, but what you're doing right here is facilitating an experience which allows people to experience, be in it, and ultimately feel supported in that too, which is it's a massive thing. It can be challenging to take that leap in trusting oneself, without some support or without some guidance and examples, right? One of the biggest things when it comes to coaching for me is like, as a coach, well, I get coached all the time. I pay for coaching. I seek out opportunities to do this stuff. And really, there's a lot of learning that happens in that. but I'm the one doing the work. They're not doing it for me. I'm the one doing it.
Yep.
And I get to see examples.
Yep.
And it's not, hey, I want to be just like Mark.
Yep.
It's like, oh my God, Mark is inspiring me to be more of myself. And
True that.
and so, that's the biggest key with this, is like getting people to show up and do it.
And move.
And move, man, and move and groove, and connect on the levels of food and community and music and rhythm and I'm sure you're gonna have breath work and all this stuff, but keeping it just super accessible, simple, and actionable, because that's
Actionable.
where the growth happens. That's where the learning happens.
Right.
If
Right.
you think you're going to read a book and learn all this shit, well, and not apply any of it, or not be in the work itself,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you're an intellectual, which has some value, I guess.
Right.
Does it have value in having that experience for yourself? No, you're living
No.
someone else's experience, right?
Yeah.
So I love it, man. You're applying the work and delivering in terms of sharing. It's beautiful.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, I always think of Paul Chek, man, when we talk, but Paul Chek said, what do you say? In terms of like learning, right? This, like, when you said intellectual, I just think about the world right now of, of thought and, uh, the world of how we use our critical thinking and all this kind of a separation of, for those, can you hear me?
Losing you a bit here, Mark. It's a little choppy. I'm sure you'll get back in it. I'm sure the internet will catch up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorta.
Can you hear me now? Here.
Yeah,
There we
you're
go.
good.
Yeah, there's a, okay. You were saying, real quick before I forget it, you were saying, I was talking about Paul Chek. You said something about
Intellectualization of things, and there
yeah.
you mentioned separation. That was where you kind of cut
Yep.
off.
So seeing the culture, we're using our brain quite a bit. We're very into this intellectual debate on so many levels, this, that, and the other, politics. Is when I think about what we're creating, what you're creating with your movement and your coaching, what I see you doing, and myself, and really tying it together about what we're sharing is, I've read hella books. I haven't read a book in a long time because Paul Chek said, you know what, you got to stop reading, and this comes from other teachers. When the time comes and you have to stop taking information in and start applying information out and start applying action out, because you took so much in, you're so full. So this retreat, what I'm doing, what you're doing, as well as teaching people to move. Think a little bit when is appropriate, but move it through, learn it through the body. Most of us, we all have different styles, but one thing that's common is most people learn with some physicality at some level. It's not non-existent, we learn how to move and walk by somebody else teaching us how to learn to walk, so we're physical beings. So getting out of the head, that's the first thing. The second thing is, someone might say, how many books do we have on breathing? How many books do we have on diet? How many books do we have on fucking healing? How many books do we have on freaking mindset and neurology? There's new science books coming out. Oh, the brain rewires like this. It's like, yeah, they said, we know that, but they just found a little difference of how it does it. Do you need to know that? Is it going to change your life? It might give you that, awareness. But if you read it before, you don't need to go that far. Just practice it enough to understand the basics. So Paul Chek says he reads stuff until he gets an awareness and an understanding of it, that he can talk to his friend and say, this is how this works on this level, and explain it to like a teenager, and they can understand it, or a kid, because he understands it well enough, but it doesn't need to be further. Does it make sense? So I don't need to spend all this time and energy and resource of energy and thinking and learning to learn a basic, go to bed, makes you feel good. How about that? Do a little dancing, your digestion gets better, and all of a sudden you're happier around your family. Oh, works. Perfect. Do you need to know why? No. So those two things I feel that just need to be heightened and just bring it aware. You don't need to know the science behind everything. You just need to know the why and the application and how you feel. So soul movement is really simplified that way. What you're doing is simplified that way. And what we need in this culture of reality right now is simplified, actionable, potent medicines that have been around for a long time, that are time tested, that are the most innate and true essence of what it means to be human, and it can't be really denied. You feel it, Soul movement isn't about gimmicks. It's not about any secret sauce. It's not about this. It's actually quite simple. So if you if you resonate with it and you want to be a part of it, it's as simple as that.
Well said, man.
Yeah.
Really well said. And I mean, one thing that really stood out to me here, and I will just say this, like I was on a podcast, I think last week, it's going to drop sometime in October. I forget this. And it's a good thing to articulate, because it shows that I may be taking it for granted at times as well. Is like, okay, the why or the purpose. People ask, hey, why am I doing this? Or what's the purpose? It's like, it feels good.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, right? And I see my face right now because I'm like a little bit serious about it right now. But like, this sort of work that we're talking about, I think people write it off to being like excruciating work, hard, really challenging. I'm gonna cry a bunch. I'm gonna lose relationships and all this. And all this may be true.
Yep. True.
It's
happened to me.
It's happened to me. It's part of the process. It's fun. It feels good.
Yep.
It may not be that direct path to like, oh, let me instant gratification, but it's fun and it feels good. And I want to say that right now, where it like, this is the sort of thing where we can, by focusing on those things, it simplifies it big time. And I would say it makes it, and I think we talked about this on our last call, right? I was throwing around this term esoteric, which is like spiritual, whatever, right? And it means like challenging to understand, or like understood by a very few people. And there's another term, just one letter different, exoteric, which is understood by the masses.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Here's how we make that shit exoteric. We highlight that it's fun, that it feels good. That, I'm working with a coach right now, and he said something to me that's like, he's like, I can tell that you have some sort of problem with being professional. And like, I can be professional like this. I can be professional in my own goofy way, but it's really in my mind of like, why I left a job where I was a professional, right? And I started doing something that was more passion and art, right? And there's a lot of mentality around the starving artist and whatnot. He's like, you know what? Being a professional is fun as fuck.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, dude. I felt it. And ever since he laid that on me, it's like, it's not that I have to change my appearance. It's not that I have to change my message or whatever, but in terms of taking action, in terms of sharing, in terms of delivering on the results that I get for people.
Yep.
I'm a professional. And I mean, it's a mindset thing, right? So, I'm getting into the weeds right there with that particular example, but it shows it's like, you know, being passionate about connecting with oneself, building a community that one can connect with, sharing
Mhm.
a vision that can reach other people. That stuff is fun. It feels
Yep,
good.
feels good. But I was gonna, it was perfect rhythm because addition is you said something about your language, and I was gonna say something. I was thinking language as you're talking, language of our day, our language of our actions, the language of our body's movement, all saying something, and the language that we speak in the actual through the throat and through the mouth. Do they align? Are they constantly going? It could be, yeah, I'm so happy, and then turn around and your body sulks and you go into a not happy position because your body knows that you're not happy. There's a dis-ease, there's a disharmony between what you're saying and actually how your body is moving. So then that starts to dictate what you say. Oh, I'm not a dancer. I've never been a dancer. I'll never be a dancer. I have 2 left feet. Yeah, that's static language. That's actually going to happen. You're not going to be a good dancer with that kind of attitude. you know? So I'm going to move over here a little bit. So feeling that language and how we move, unspoken and spoken, can have this
Yeah,
profound change in our ability to learn and be open to learning something new because we're not threatened. Our existence isn't threatened, or our way of being. We just get out and say.
exactly, man.
Which I was just talking about, this little layer that you're talking about, that we're talking about, is uh, white belt ability to learn, to be open and receptive. Potent piece is that mind switch, little perspective switch, lens viewing differently. Whew, you can move actionable things you can do within it just by that switch of the mind and openness, you know?
Dude, absolutely. Absolutely. And the language, let's say, around the particular example of like, I'll never be a dancer, or I'm not good at dancing, or all that, is like prevents one from taking action. It is a very safe place to be,
Mm-hmm.
um, and comfortable, right? And and with that, there there was another thing in terms of like, okay, want, right? I don't know what that was.
Hold on,
But
what's that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
all good. So like the word want, which, I think is a good word, right? There some people will say like, oh, desire is a much better word. There's no lack in desire, right? But want has some sense of lack.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but like okay, it's like, I want to be a good dancer. Changing that to, I will be a good dancer. I like that word will. There's a lot of good, and this is where you were talking about like the language not matching up with the body. But if there are certain words that can help us feel more connected to what we're saying, well, shit, we're harmonizing there, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're getting into that pattern. And so it's like, the word will, I will be a good dancer, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a big time identity statement right there. And then the other aspect of that is, I like to think of willpower. And we all have this power, but will is what puts that power into action. And so, do you want it, or are you going to will it into existence? And it's a trap. It's a trap to say, hey, I'm never going to be good at this, so what's the point?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I, I yeah, I picked up 2 things this year. I mean, I've been doing hacky sack, foot bag, whatever. That was something that I had done, like I said, in college, coming back to it though, I accepted at the beginning of this year, I'm going to fail so much. And then something that I felt a lot of confidence in with dance, recognizing, hey, there's some other levels to this. And in order for me to really explore this avenue, I got to get uncomfortable. I got to suck. And it's been, I mean, dude, I'm smiling way more than I ever have. Well, my nickname as a kid, one of my nicknames as a kid was Smiley. So I don't know if I can compete with Smiley back in the day, but I'm smiling so much, and so much of that has to do with just being enthralled with the process and being okay with not being attached to like a particular result, and sure, I do see that stuff in the future of like, hey, I will be a good dancer. I will master these house steps. I will be able to freestyle. I will be able to detach myself from structure and get into flow. But I recognize that structure is what's going to get me to that state of flow as well. Right. And there's a whole nother conversation of the masculine and the feminine right there, of the flow. There needs to be some sense of flow, the feminine. And then in order for there to be something to structure something around, which the structure would be more of the masculine energy. But for anybody out there, when it comes to dance or whatnot, or movement, or just this work, like chances are there's some aspect of the femininity that it needs to get flowing in order for you to really understand what you're structuring, right? So I know we're getting into the weeds here, but I love it.
Get your feminine on, yo.
Yeah.
Nice.
Dude.
Yeah, brother. So in thinking about all that we've talked about, we kind of end on soul movement retreat, kind of flowed out of that in terms of, then we've kind of gone into language of where you are in your dance journey. Taking that class 3 years ago with me, doing the disco for dudes, the dance for dudes. What are you finding most joy out of, or like what are you working with within your own dance? Where's your edge? And then maybe like how are you using that, and what are you finding in sharing with other dudes out there, bros, men, as a theme that they're working through? Is there any themes? What are some of the things?
Yeah. Well, let's start with my personal experience with all this. The things that are really powerful for me, I would say, is understanding that flow and structure, right? So giving myself the opportunity to flow in different ways with rhythm. And I could be doing this with different modalities. I also could do it with simply the modality of dance, which is accessible at all times. Don't need any sort of equipment. So, giving myself the opportunity to just break free of the structure and really feel into my body, because there have been certain modalities that I have gotten into, let's say over the past 3 years, that have been like really powerful and therapeutic for the body. Yet there's a mind piece to it, the way it's been communicated and delivered, very much trapping and a lot of fear. And so recognizing that, playing footbag, dancing around and being like, oh, wow, like these positions I used to be able to get into, I know I can still get into them, but it's more of this structure up here that is preventing me from truly expressing that flow. So I would say that's something that puts me on the edge right there, and makes me uncomfortable, is like breaking free of that structure. And then the other piece is house dance. I mean, the structure of that. I love jazz music. I love house music. I love the fact that it just keeps me going. It's a nice metronome, and the simplicity of it mixed with like, okay, there's a lot of different levels to this, makes it something that is like, hey, this is worth my attention. This is worth putting my energy towards. And um what like puts me on the edge there is like, learning these different steps, and these different patterns, and just like seeing this like disconnect, and then I get it, and it's like, whoa. So what really lies ahead is
Nice. Yeah.
the combination of those two, and being able to use this structured form of dance and house dance that encompasses all forms of structured dance, and then put it into what I see you doing, what I see Jardy doing, what I see the other people in that house dance class that I took with you, is true self-expression and individuality and flow. And seeing, hey, these structured patterns, it's like, oh, I find this, and you just do your thing. And so that's really
Mm-hmm.
appealing to me, and I'm willing to be bad at it, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm okay with that, knowing that I will be a good dancer. And then in terms of what I see with men,
Mm-hmm.
one, I see well, there's this one progression that I like to go through. So it's like, where are you on this spectrum? So like, are you the wallflower that's afraid to get out on the dance floor, right? Like, oh man, if I could only just get out there, right? So plenty of men are at that stage where they're not moving at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're afraid to put themselves out there for a variety of reasons. I'm going to look stupid. I have two left feet. They have all these stories of all that. And then there's, I want to look cool on the dance
Mm-hmm.
floor, which, people are out there. They want to get better. They want to learn new steps, so they look cool. And so that's a
That's me.
stage.
That's me.
And dude, I'm right there with you. I want to look cool. And
Yeah.
this is where I would say I want to take people. And this is where the work takes people, is I feel cool on the dance
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
one feels cool on the dance floor, I mean, you're a
You
great
look cool.
example of that, Mark. You look damn sexy while you're doing it, right? So, um, you know, there's a lot of like, oh, I'm out of place, I'm disconnected, I'm stiff. There's a lot of just these words that people are putting out there around what their rhythm is, and really not giving themselves an opportunity. And what I simply start people out with in terms of that is like what I saw when I went to a house show for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And all it was, a little sidestep to the left, come back to the center, a little sidestep to the right, right? And that simple little move right there, or it could be in the front, which is that classic disco step. Step forward with the left, come back, step forward with the right, come back,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, Simple stuff like that, where it's like I saw so much personality across the board, right? Hey, this
Mm-hmm.
person's really stiff. This person, they're doing the same thing as this person, but they're really liberated, and they like their flow, even in the same simple little sidestep right there, is they're more connected to it, right? And so uh what I would say to that is like meeting these men with where they're at, and that is like
Mm-hmm.
getting them to feel cool, feel sexy on the dance
Mm-hmm.
floor. And that literally could be a simple sidestep.
Simple side steps.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that's where a lot of men get, pent up, is like, okay, maybe they do see somebody like yourself dancing, or they have an expectation of what dancing is, and they're like, oh, I could never do that. But when it comes to rhythm and it comes to dancing, it's connecting with one's own rhythm and connecting with the music that's playing. And
Mm-hmm.
and one thing that I feel that I've always been really connected to is the musicality, is being able
Mm-hmm.
to, let's say I danced to a lot of jazz in my bedroom, uh, for years, and just being able to really, I guess, channel what that artist is putting out there.
Yeah.
With jazz,
Yeah.
like I was able to start to feel different aspects of the movement or music and move to that, right? And so that's
Yeah.
all it is.
Yeah.
I'd say at the core, everything else is flash, and it's cool to embody those new skills. But if you can't bring them back to the connection of, hey, I'm doing this, I'm connecting with myself, connecting with the people around me, connecting to the music, then it's all just noise.
Yeah. Right. We're missing the point of it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Improvising. We call that catching the ghost. So
Catching
if
the
you're on the dance
ghost.
floor,
Oh,
and that applies to a lot of things. You can catch the ghost. You can catch the ghost in your painting. You can catch the ghost in a conversation. You can catch the ghost in the kitchen. You can catch the ghost anywhere. It means when you're in flow and everything falls away and you're present in the moment with yourself, your body, what your task is, what you're doing, and the environment, the smells, even the sounds, everything is crystallized and you're there. That's catch the ghost. So,
oh man.
which, if you think about it, other words, I believe that's also coming home, going in, you're touching the essence of who's in the moment. So that's dope, man. It's like, yeah, feeling it, going back. So let's play some music.
Catching the
On
ghost,
that.
man. I think that's a great place to wrap on this. You know, we've been at it for a while, but um
That's really dope to have you helping brothers find their flow and expression. I'm sure it's impactful work and it's needed. We need this type of relationship and cultivation through time tested, mother approved things of music, drumming, and movement, and like dancing around the fire, dancing with our brothers and sisters and our mothers, and fathers, and moving with purpose, not wasted movement, but movement that channels us and brings us like this, like this warrior and all the women and the warrior that's in the men for good and for the earth and for healing. It's all in
dude,
there, man.
it is. Well, dude, I mean, you've been on my mind and in my heart as I continue to embark on this journey with dance and supporting men as well in that process. And um it's really cool to have this conversation with you, and yeah, man, continue to expand and expand the awareness of, I learned a lot in this conversation, and expand the awareness for other people out there. And this is my last thing I will say here. Go catch the ghost with Mark. What is it, October 9th through 11th, the Soul Movement Retreat?
Definitely come catch ghosts. We'd love to have you here too, bro. If you get,
Dude,
you can make.
I would love to make it. Let me get back to you on that. It's like so up my alley and I want to make it, and I've got these prior commitments, but dude, I'm be in touch and we'll get that figured out. But Mark, thank you so much, man.
Welcome, brother. Thank
Excited
you.
to share this. All right.
Yeah.